I just graduated college fall 2023, so I really just wanted to make a video of my advice for STEM majors going into college, because I feel like there's not a lot of things people tell you or you don't really know what to expect, especially from STEM majors. Not trying to like belittle other majors, but it really is just kind of a whole different game. Also, this video has no script, but it has notes, so we'll see how that goes. So my first advice is to learn how to study. Coming in from high school, college is an entirely different game. The pacing is faster, there are more people, it's just information quickly, and the teacher's not gonna necessarily start and stop like, oh, did you get that? Oh, let's go back, let's write another example on the board or stuff like that. So my first year, zero study habits carried over from high school because I didn't necessarily have to study. I would just look at something and be like, oh, yep, test, I'm passing the test, no problem. My first semester, I literally got punched in the freaking mouth. Also, here's a little advice I would like to give you. If you ever failed a class, never say you failed a class. Just be like, oh, I had to retake that class. You see the difference in that? Like, oh, you had to retake the class, not you failed. So first semester, even though I'm kind of going against what I said, literally F, never had an F in a day in my life. 2 C's, GPA gone immediately. It's already gone. So, and that was all because I didn't know how to study or what to study, especially math. Really my only advice, because I think study habits vary from person to person. At least for math, it's more about repetition. Because I was an engineering major, I guess I should share that. I was a electrical engineering major, concentration in computer engineering with a math minor. So, a lot of math, at least in the engineering field. I can't necessarily say for like the science field, like the biology people or like the health sciences people, but it is still going to be a lot of information, and you need to know how to retain that information. Number 2, like I just said, it is a lot. So my sister, she just called me the other day. She called me. First of all, her class started. Her first day of class was this Monday. As I'm recording this video, it is a Friday. She called me on Thursday. Asia, I don't know if I can do this. It's too much math. I gotta take physics and math, calculus, and I got all my other classes. I got organic chemistry too. It's really gonna be a lot of work. Like them first 2 years, they call them fill out classes. Once you hit your junior year, that's when it really starts to get real. So you need to know how to manage yourself those first 2 years so you can really gear up for your junior year. Also, not trying to like fearmonger y'all or anything, but I just want to be real and open, as honest as I can get, because I wish somebody would have told me this. So like the week where the freshmen show up to school, they took all the engineers, they took us to the auditorium, and they were like, look to your right, look to your left. Only 20% of people in this room are going to graduate as engineers. And they weren't playing. So this is my segue into that it will be challenging. Kind of challenging hard, because once again, I'm going to be honest. It is literally a lot of work, especially coming from the math side. Me and my coworkers today were just talking about the worst classes we've ever had and the professors that we had. Well, it might have been a good professor, but not a good teacher, or stuff like that. Like you'll know what I'm talking about eventually. But they call those first 2 years like the weed out classes for real. It's, do you really want this? I remember this guy I went to school with, we both came in together, and like my sophomore year, every time he saw me, he would ask me if I was still an engineer. Kid you not, at least 2 people every semester was like, oh nah bro, I'm not doing engineering no more. It was just really tough like that. I mean, it'd be the basic stuff like, can you do calculus? Can you do physics? But once you get past that stuff will still be there. But if you can't do the basic physics, brother, you're going to be in trouble. You need to be best friends with the organic chemistry tutor. Also, another thing I just want to say as just kind of a blanket statement is it may take longer than 4 years. I feel like people don't necessarily share that this much. I mean, it is kind of, I don't want to say the norm, but it is not uncommon to not graduate in 4 years. I mean, some of the friends I went to school with, they were education majors. It took them 5 years. Personally, it took me 5.5 years. I knew somebody who did 6 years. One of the guys I was in school with, I was like, when you graduate? And he was like, oh, 2025. That would put him at at 6 years. I mean, even some of my friends who weren't necessarily engineering majors took them 4.5. So don't necessarily feel like you have to do it all in 4 years. Nobody cares. Like, I have a job now. Nobody cares that it took me 5.5 years. I mean, we all met up at the same spot. Life is not necessarily linear, just to break off in that segue. But did I ever finish it? This is why I don't do stuff off script, because I'll be all over the place. But yeah, people will change majors from STEM, and some know they like, I'm not built for this, or I don't necessarily really like this, and that's just fine. But that's just something I thought people was like, oh, you gonna change to a business major as a joke. No, they was dead freaking serious. One of the guys I went to school with, he was like, oh, I'm a business major. I was like, oh, they got him. Not saying I'm talking down on them. I was just like, oh. And the last thing that I have is that everybody is in the same boat. And what I mean by this is when you're all in a class. First of all, let me go on a little tangent real quick. The people that you see, for the most part, are going to be the exact same people. Like, once you get in those engineering classes, I went to a smaller school, so maybe I won't have like the best example here. For 2 years, I had a class with the exact same people. That's just how it is. So get to know them, be friends with them, lean on them, because y'all are all taking the same classes, Even the people that you think may be doing well in the class. I mean, there have been so many times I've come into class and I'm like, I feel like I'm not ready for the test. Everybody's ready, or everybody did the assignment. They comfortable. You come into the class. Did you do the assignment? Did you finish the assignment? No. And it's one of the guys or the people that you think is ahead in the class. They just as confused, if not more confused than you are. I remember, I think about this story fairly often. I remember I was taking Circuits 2, and the class was just not doing too good. And so the teacher was like, okay, since the whole class, for the most part, did not do too good on the test, I'll do like some makeup test or something like that. So I'm like, okay. So I'm thinking this guy is doing well in the class. I mean, he answering questions, all that type of jazz. I'm like, this dude do not need no type of extra points. Like, what is he doing here? I get to talking. Why the freak he get a 3 on the test? Like, my personal career low is a 32, but a 3, I was just shocked. I did not expect that. And that's what I mean by everybody is in this same boat. Like, so many times we would just be coming into class together. Like, we had a presentation for system engineering. I think that was the class. And we're thinking the other group is confident on what they're going to be doing in the presentation. We get to talking afterwards. They were like, y'all, I'm so glad the professor thought it was good, because I was not confident at all. And there was only 2 groups, and we both was like, I hope so. Like, I think I know what we're talking about. And so it's just stuff like that. Also, I guess for just added bonuses, I could just share, even though these are the worst experiences, but they're funny stories now that I'm through it. I remember I was studying electromagnetic theory. That class, when I tell you I was putting in freaking hours for that class, when I tell you I was getting up at like 4 a.m. to study until like the test, like that was my first class. So I had like a 9 o'clock class. I'm waking up at 4 studying for 6 hours. Is that 6? 5 hours, excuse me. Just to study. I mean, that type of stuff. I remember, this is so funny now. I remember during COVID, I had this material science class. And this was one of those classes where I thought I was doing good in. And we was on like Group Me. And everybody was like, what did you get on the test? Whole class was like, not where we wanted to be at. So I'm doing my little project. I'm thinking I'm doing good. I just see 37 on the paper that he sent back to me. I'm like, what the heck is a 37? Like 37 out of 50, 37 out of 75. Like, what we talking about? I emailed the professor, hey, what does this mean? I don't know what you're asking. What you see is what you get. And at that time, that was the lowest grade I ever had. It was a 37. I was like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Like, I will say, a F to a C pipeline is very real. It does exist. I need you to believe in it. I used to tell my sister this all the time. Do not be discouraged on your first test. So many times I have come around the corner. I mean, Differential equations, even though I had to freaking strap in for that class. First test, I get a 45. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is test 1. It's only gonna get harder from here. You can pull up your grade, even though I wasn't a believer in dropping classes, so don't necessarily take my advice on this. But I got a 45 on the test. I'm like, okay, it's only gonna get harder from here. So I basically had to just freaking lock in. I mean, I was really studying, putting in the repetition. I did not go to professor because he was not a good teacher. So I did have to be a member of YouTube University. Do not be ashamed of being a member of YouTube University. Eventually got to be in the class. I'm coming from a 47 on my test to a B in the class. Or so many times I had an F on the midterms, get a C in the class. So that is very, very real. So I had to always tell my sister, like, do not be discouraged on that first test. There will be opportunities for you to make that up. You gotta work for it, but it is there. Oh, I remember when my roommate, shout out to my roommate, she was a communications major. I remember she would be hanging out with her friends and stuff, and she would come in late at like 11, and she'd be like, dang, you still studying? You was studying yesterday. Like, I know I was studying yesterday. I was studying for this test literally for 3 days and 2 nights. And I did make a 40 on that test. And that was the time when I was like crying to my mom in the bathroom. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail this class. I'm going to be put back a year. Like, I can't afford to fail this class. It's funny now, but then it wasn't funny because I'm on the other side of it. Also, my last semester was literally the worst semester. My last semester was literally the worst semester ever. This was, I was in the apartments. And I took 19 hours. I took 9 classes. When you're in college, you know a heavy day is anything that is 4 or more classes or 2 or more labs. That is a heavy day. Wednesday, I had classes from 9:35 to 5:30. I'm working a full-time job in schoolwork. And then I had to work on my senior project. I remember on a Saturday, I was in a engineering building so long. My sister thought I left my phone there, or she thought something was up because I was in the engineering building all day. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to freaking get my project done. My worst semester ever. It was my junior year. That's all I can say. I mean, just a lineup of the heaviest classes ever. Calculus 3, Physics 2, like heat transfer thermodynamics. I'm like, what in the world? I'm taking dynamics, huh? Hardest classes ever. I remember, this is another funny story of mine. I remember it was the day before the first night of classes. This was during COVID too, so I was at home. I literally set my alarm clock and just started crying because I was just not freaking ready for another semester of me coming through the worst semester ever. I guess to end it on some positive notes. I mean, the friends you make along the way, they're there. Everybody has, up, down seasons. Also going back to, everybody's in the same boat. One of the guys I came in with, I'm thinking he ahead of the game. It took him 5 years, but in my school, that was kind of like the standard, at least for like mechanical and electrical. I'm thinking he got it going on. And we ended up in the same class because we had the math minor together, and he was talking. He was like, yeah, I had to retake about 2 to 3 classes. But, some of the classes you just don't get the first time, or you really got to work for it. But yeah, just like being active on campus, like being involved with organizations within your major, it's really fun. I remember we had a kickball game. Some girl got hit in the face. I mean, just being around, like I had a moment when I like just graduated like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, wait, I don't get to see my classmates anymore until I go to homecoming. I would just say make the most of it because it'll go by. I wouldn't say quick because my junk was not freaking quick. Like I remember every semester. I felt every semester. There is some good in college. It is not just all bad. You do need to have some type of balance though. I wouldn't recommend just being, straight school. Maybe have a 70-30, a 65-35 type beat. Obviously, majority of focus on school. College isn't so bad. You will eventually get through it. This is only a time of your life. So, thank you for listening to me ramble / give advice / tell a part of my lore. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, rate, subscribe. Peace and chicken grease.